Welcome back to the Dating Battle. I'm your host, Jody Besesor. This is my co-host, Kai. And this is our guest for tonight, Carolyn, all the way from Trinidad. So I know so far in the dating battle, we've been talking about some wild stuff, from girl on girl to threesomes, you name it, we've covered it. But I think our takeaway and why I'm doing this is because I want women to have a safe place to talk about sex, love, and relationships. And I think tonight our topic is safety, and that's a really, really important topic, especially coming up on the summer. Some of us might be single, ready to mingle, and not only just using condoms, but, the etiquette of partying with guys and going back to a guy's room that you just met. I have met, and the reason what inspired my book was I had a friend who didn't know that if you go back, especially when you first meet a guy, if you go up to his room, his apartment, that he's definitely going to try to make a move on you.
Definitely.
Right? You would say that's
Definitely.
the case. If you get into a man's private space, he's going to think he has the chance or the right of way to make a move.
There is an unspoken expectation that this man probably thinks he's entitled to sexual activity, sexual play, I'm not saying that is right, but that's the trend.
Yeah, that's an interesting point of view. I think that's very well said.
Yeah.
So tonight's safety is not only just, I remember when I was first hitting the going out scene, I started young. I was 16, 17, 18, 19, going to clubs and bars, and guys would buy me drinks, and I always felt kind of obligated that I had to take the drink, and I would get so intoxicated sometimes. God knock on wood, nothing bad ever happened. I always got home safe. I was always with my group of friends that I went to high school with. But I feel like, we shouldn't be accepting drinks from guys that we don't really know, or doing drugs, or partying with acquaintances, even people you know under 3 years. I would say putting yourself in situations where there's after parties and hotels, and you're in a confined space with a man, it's very late at night, it's not necessarily the safest position as a woman. Even as a young man, I would say to put yourself in these vulnerable positions. I would say, for me, my experience...
You would say not to put yourself in those vulnerable
Don't put yourself
positions.
in those vulnerable positions. You shouldn't be doing drugs, taking drinks from people you don't know.
Yeah. Definitely in any space that your natural thinking skill is compromised, you definitely should not be in a space where you would not be able to make independent decisions. You would not be able to say or advocate for yourself and say, listen, no, I don't feel comfortable doing this. I don't want to do this. I don't think that this is safe for me. You definitely should not be putting yourself in those positions, because as a woman, you have to always think, you have to be hyper aware of the energy that we operate in,
Yeah. Explain more about that. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so I would say that women need to understand that the nature of men, it's very predatory. And I'm not saying that as a slight to my... I am not saying...
I'm good.
Yes.
I'm receiving.
I'm not saying that as a slight, but most men, they automatically think in a predatory way, How can I be in a situation where I benefit from this? That's automatically how men think. So if a woman's, if she's in a place where she is compromised in terms of inebriated, under the influence of a drug or a substance, obviously the ability to make rational and sound decisions is compromised. So he's gonna think, oh, I'm going to be able to benefit from this because she can't say no. She can't give consent, And that's what happens to so many young women.
That's happened to me before.
And I'm so sorry that it has
Really?
happened to me.
Yeah. I would say I haven't had many situations living in America. I feel like it's safer than some of these countries. Like in Jamaica, there's rape. There's all different topics that we could delve into. But I feel like America's the place where I felt safe. But even in my old age, I always felt like I was always pretty savvy with men, especially doing drugs and drinking alcohol. It never really got to a place where I feel like I got taken advantage of. But in my 30s, especially during the pandemic, I don't know if it's because I was lonely or looking for friends, but I had a friend who I met through another friend who was an acquaintance, an older man. He provided, all the party substances and alcohol. And I guess one night we were at a COVID party, and I guess something had happened between us. I didn't recall, like I was super inebriated, maybe blacked out at this point, which we should never be, but it happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
And when he told me that, it made me just wake up a little bit. Like I was so naive to that ever happening to me. Like I never thought that would happen to me. And I trusted this person so much to be my friend that I thought he would have respect for me to not cross that boundary. So it made me just see him so differently. It also made me wise that I shouldn't be putting myself in situations like that. And I do take a part of the blame because I felt like I should have known better. Like I was in my early 30s. I've been around the block. It's not like I'm new to the men wanting women and what happens in between men and women.
Right.
So that's kind of my story and why I think you shouldn't be taking drugs. You shouldn't be, even on dates, you shouldn't be drinking more than a couple drinks on a first date, a first few dates with a man.
Definitely. I think women need to start applying, maybe if you're tolerant to liquor or alcohol, I think you can 3 drinks maximum.
3? You think
3.
that many?
Yeah, 3 drinks. Like if you have 3,
I say 2.
No,
2
I
for
mean, like,
me.
that's what I'm saying. If
2
you're
for me.
tolerant to liquor, if you know you can withstand alcohol, you can probably have 3 drinks. But when you're not tolerant to alcohol, I would say stick with 1 drink and be comfortable with that.
Well, I feel like the reason people love alcohol, man, woman, is because it makes you feel more
relaxed.
You're more confident
Less inhibitions.
Yes. You lose
the inhibition.
And you want to clear that so you could connect with somebody or dance in front of strangers. And when you're young or when you first start going out socializing and you don't really know, okay, 2 drinks, 3 drinks is my max.
Yeah.
You kind of you're more focused on feeling comfortable, and that's when you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
You can't stop trying to be cool. Stop trying to if you feel anxious, maybe it's best you go home.
Yeah.
And this is just you have to look out for yourself in that way where it's all right, tonight's not my night. Try again another night. That's how players play the game. It's sometimes you gotta know when to let go. I feel like the people who end up getting taken advantage of and the people who do the taking advantage, those are the people that are it's not working, but I'm gonna stay and I'm gonna make it work.
I think that's a valid point. When you're so centered on being the cool person in the room or fitting in, not really paying attention to how you feel, and not acknowledging that, listen, maybe I don't feel safe. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't feel safety within yourself and you can't identify when there is a lack of safety, then that's an issue. Because then you keep pushing your limits, your personal limits, and you can't say, well, no, this is enough, I've had enough, or, you can't say, well, I don't feel safe, I don't feel comfortable, maybe I should leave,
Right. I mean, have you been in a situation, well, for your situation, did you feel at any point, did you feel because you felt like you knew the person.
Yeah, I felt like we were friends. Yeah.
You trusted the person.
I trusted this person. Yeah.
And at some point things sort of went
Well, I think it was the inebriation was the problem. Yeah.
But also, even though you're in a state where you are intoxicated or you've taken a substance, a party substance, a drug, at the end of the day, the responsibility of another person can never lie on you. If that person decides to act poorly towards you, that is not a slight on. Yes, you would have probably had an error in judgment. Yes, you probably should have done something that you were not supposed to do. But at the end of the day, that no way makes you accountable for their behavior. Poor behavior is poor behavior. And I feel
Yeah.
as though safety, even in relationships and friendships,
Mm.
there's so many parts that can be dissected, you know, because you have to be able to know, as you said, like you felt safe with this person, you
Mm.
felt comfortable with this person, but do you ever truly know if someone is safe or comfortable
Yeah.
until you're placed in a situation
Yeah,
where
that's true.
you have
Yeah.
to be either inebriated, you're compromised, and you
Yeah.
don't know how that person is going to react. It's
Yeah.
like, could I be safe with someone else?
Yeah.
You know, that feeling? So, again, it's so many moving parts to that.
Yeah.
But I would also say poor behavior is poor behavior.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
I think
there's
I-
no excuse for
I
that.
blamed
Right.
myself a little bit because I was like, how could I let myself get that inebriated, first of all?
Yeah.
How could I let myself put myself in a position like that? Like, I thought that that was behind me. Like, that's something that I experienced in Jamaica. Like, I didn't think that that in my adult life, like now that I'm in control of my destiny in my life, that I would be compromised. I mean, you hear these stories of like either it's Weinstein or women who are put in these kind of situations where they're compromised sexually, and you never think that that could happen to you. You know, it's just until it does, and you say you never know if you can trust somebody until you lose distrust for them. You know, I never could have expected that.
So, like, what happened in Jamaica that made you feel?
Well, in Jamaica, like rape is very prevalent.
Okay.
It's very like abusive towards women physically, verbally. I remember like a couple, like the man like slit her throat. I don't know what
Yeah.
happened, but she like stabbed out his eyes. So I guess she got him back.
Wow.
You know, so it's very violent like that. That's the Jamaica I remember.
Mhm.
I would say in general, the Caribbean is a place where domestic violence is very prevalent. But again, across the board, statistics have shown that there is an increase in domestic violence. There is an increase in intimate partner violence. There is an increase in even violence among friends, where, you know, friends set each other up to have bad things happen to each other and stuff like that, you know. So you just have to be aware, you know, when you place yourself in certain situations. And sometimes even you may be innocently affected by the actions of someone. You may have done every single thing correctly, and something bad still happens, you know. And that is what we call the unguarded moments. you know.
Well, I mean, Carolyn, it can definitely feel a little like with the rise in domestic violence and like, you know, all of this betrayal and people sort of being at this point in the world like desperate and like uncivilized. Like, it can feel hopeless, but I think
We're going backwards instead of forwards. I
right, yeah, we've gotten too comfortable, and I feel like, you know, in terms of safety and navigating dating and relationships, like, and boundaries, I think one thing that has helped me is trusting my community. Like, I have no shame. I don't know how the younger people, like middle school, high school, I don't know how the kids are doing it nowadays, but y'all, we used to be on the phone at night,
Yeah.
okay? We used to be on the phone at night, like we had night jobs, talking to our people, and like, we have phones, like we can text, like share your location, and like when you get there, text your friend, like when you're at the table, text your friend, like, because if your friend realizes they're not hearing nothing, your friend is going to go to bat for you. Like, when I first started dating, like, one of my first one night stands, person went to the bathroom, I looked for the mail, and because I didn't know what address I was at.
Yeah.
Because
Oh my
I just,
God.
you know,
Yeah.
sometimes we don't know where the hell we're at.
Yeah, I've been in that.
And I'm
situation,
like-
I can't say.
Text the address and the name to my
This
sister.
yeah.
You know, you have to really think of
Yeah.
yourself as valuable and think of yourself kind of like as something really expensive that you don't want to lose or have to pay for again in the future, and really protect it. Like,
Value your life and value, like, be safe. Not only just using protection. It's like, if you meet somebody online, don't give him your address. You know, the first few times you hang out with this dude, he shouldn't know your address, even if you do meet him in a bar or online. You know, as women, individuals, we have to take steps to be safe.
Definitely. I think overall, whether it be man or woman, you definitely have to make sure that there are appropriate measures in place for your personal safety, because everyone is looking out for themselves. So you have to also be responsible for yourself.
So, as a mom, what would you, I guess, say to, how do you feel in your journey of motherhood in terms of where the world is today and like preparing your kids for protecting themselves in dating? Like, what are, I would say, like 3 rules, 3 top things that you would...
I don't have any rules.
Okay.
But what I definitely would do is give my children guidance, because I remember myself as a young child or as a teenager, I was giving my mother weird hell.
You were a bad girl?
You?
Listen, I would go partying at night, but I would be in convent at 6 a.m. in the morning. So I would party all night, but 6 a.m. I'm in convent. I'm sitting at my desk. But like, children do what, you can come from what home? You could come from the best home to the most socially disadvantaged home. When a child decides that they're gonna take a certain or a particular course of action, there's nothing that could deter that child from that. So what I do in my household is that I try to instill core values in my children. Like, be a leader, don't be a follower, always be responsible for yourself, make the best decisions, you know? And those are the things that I hope that they remember if they're placed in a situation where they're like maybe going to be compromised. They remember their mom saying, always be a leader. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're unsafe. Call someone, reach out to someone. You know, I hope that those life lessons would stay with them. And so they understand, listen, there's value in always being safe, in always protecting yourself, in applying measures so that you remain safe and protected, you know. But children do whatever they want to do.
Right. Just curious nature to
Yes.
be curious
Yes.
and want to discover the
And
world
how-
on your own terms.
And half of the reason why teenagers and young adults get into so much trouble is because they're exploring life. And we don't learn enough from our elders. Like, I talk about this all the time. Like, yes, we do whatever we want to do, but also if we have real guidance, like, I'm not telling you do what I say.
Right.
If you
Like,
say-
talk about
like-
something you've
like
been
real
through.
life,
Right.
like, give it to your children real, you know. Let it be real life examples so that they understand how the dynamic of life flows, you know.
Well, that's why I appreciate, you know, Jody, your vulnerability in talking about your experience, your personal experience, just like socializing and being on the scene in New York. And like, I think people are afraid to tell their stories, and a lot of it has to do with the agenda that is anti like women's rights. Like, that's really, you know, a lot of, I hear men and I see things online in the comments where men are like, everyone's exaggerating. And it's like, actually, everyone's not exaggerating. A majority of women are being sexually harassed, raped, and abused. And like, you know, we still trying to live and we're still trying to have a good time. And, you know, being candid and sharing your story, even though it's hard, you know, talking about it with other people, I think is really important for the generations, for our generation to heal from our trauma, and for the generations that are coming.
And I wanted to share because hopefully you can learn through my mistakes. Somebody told me you can't live long enough to make all the mistakes in the world, so you might as well learn from other people. And it's about dating and growing and learning. And, you know, I see a lot of people do dating shows. And the reason why I wanted to do my show was because I thought that I could have a different perspective to add, a more healing, a more healthy, a more peaceful, a more just inclusive idea of dating instead of, you know, oh, men are looking for this, or, you know, do's and don'ts or rules and things like that. So I wanted to maybe, hopefully somebody can learn something, if anything.
Definitely. But we also just have to acknowledge, you know, yes, most men look for something. Yes, most women look for something, you know. That's just a reality of the world that we live in. Relationships are transactional. People engage with each other because they get a source of something that they're searching for within each other, you know. And once we acknowledge this, once we realize that every interaction you have with someone is because you gain something or that person gains something, hence the transaction comes in, then we understand, like, listen, life is gonna just continue being this way, you know. We're gonna have to serve each other, we're gonna have to give each other love, we're gonna have to move in alignment with each other. But the thing is, we're moving away from that. We're not really acknowledging. And that's why I feel as though safety is a big part, because if you willingly engage with someone who is wanting the same things as you, you're not going to have to forcefully take it from them. You're not going to have to take advantage of someone. There are spaces for this.
So be clear about
Exactly. Your intention.
Yes, that's a key. You're so right.
Yeah. Just be clear about what you want, and you move to suit.
Or not.
Or not.
Yeah.
You keep it moving.
Right.
Yeah.
So now that it's summer, go out there, date, have fun, but also be safe and keep safety in mind.
Cheers.
Cheers. Happy summer. Spring.